out in the weight room. If you can pick up, you can strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and our running back coach didn't take biggest biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by MaXSports. It's a beautiful Friday morning. It's the eve of the SEC championship game.
Woo!
And man, it's hard to believe, but it's here. It's up on us. Can the Tide win? And if they win, can they get in? That is the question. Sankey making his thoughts and comments on it. Saban making his feelings made known on whether or not he thinks that Alabama Crimson Tide can get in. What are your thoughts? We love to hear from you as we roll throughout this Friday edition of the Martin Houston Show. It's the Sound of Bama Sports, your show, your team. We'd love to hear from you. 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline that you can get in on the conversation. Our playbook today is, of course, our score prediction with the Georgia total yards as the tiebreaker. So let me hear from you. You can post them in the chat or you can call us. Nick Saban says it'll be disrespect for the SEC. Disrespect for the SEC. We'll continue the Georgia-Alabama comparison game. We'll do a little bit more back to the future. We started that yesterday with a couple of highlight plays from yesterday that made a major difference in how Alabama in the Georgia games came out, as well as do a little bit of the Ohio State in there. We'd love to hear from you. Once again, you can join us on the live stream in the chat by putting your thoughts, your comments, and your questions there, your reactions there, and we'll work them into the conversation. Excuse me. So go ahead and make plans to do that. Follow at Martin Houston 35 on X, and Twitter. And YouTube, or the Martin Houston 35 on Facebook, Martin Houston 35 fan page on Facebook, amongst others. All right, we got Blind Squirrel Sport. I know it's going to be interesting. He's been picking the Tide every week. Will he pick the Tide this week? If you don't know, Blind Squirrel Sport is a Georgia fan, so we've allowed him to spy on us all year. To be a part of the program. Now the question is, if we beat Blind Squirrel Sport, if we beat Georgia, will he be back next week? That's the question. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But either way, we are going to get things rolling. I want to remind you that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Chuck Hunt says Alabama has a huge hurdle tomorrow. We do. Alabama does have a huge hurdle tomorrow. But I gave you a few stats, numbers yesterday, and I want to just review those once again as we go through the morning to get things started. Okay. Now, Boo Corrigan, when he was asked, why is Oregon ranked in front of Texas? This was his response. Bo Nix completion percentage. He said Oregon State, but I think he meant Oregon's average score or total points that Oregon scored all year, and a loss to Washington. Now, That is 100% style points and how you played against somebody beating you. Nothing about how you won, because your point total can be, misconstrued. I mean, if you play a bunch of Chattanoogas and Utahs, or you run the score up on one opponent versus the other, but they didn't play. They did not play their best team. They played. I'm sorry. They did play the best team in the conference. Talking about Oregon, and they got beat by Washington. Even though I think they're better than Washington, but anyway, they got beat by Washington, and they didn't play Arizona. Now listen to this: Alabama, when it's all said and done, will have, if they beat Georgia. Now this is everything we're talking about is contingent on beating Georgia. Okay, everything is contingent on. If we don't take care of business, we've had all this conversation. We've had our stress, our hair all up in the uproar, and all that stuff, and it won't matter. Okay, so it won't matter. So Alabama, you have to take care of business. But if Alabama takes care of business, they will have 5 wins against the top 21 teams, with Tennessee being the lowest ranked team that Alabama would have beaten. The next closest, Georgia would only have one against like 3 if they beat us. So they I think they get to 4 if they beat us. They have 3 right now. We have 5. So I mean, it's crazy to think that either one of those teams would be left out. It's crazy to think about that. And I don't know if you got to hear Sankey's interview. He pretty much called all the commissioners, the committee, and everybody out. He pointed out what I pointed out. And I pointed out simply this fact: that when the SEC gets in, they win. In the history of the college football playoff, the SEC has lost 3 games in the college football playoffs to non-SEC schools. Okay, that's all the rounds combined. Okay, so that's potential of it's been 10 years. That's potential of 20 games, I think. SEC has been in every year. Well, it's been 18 games, right? So no, it's 3 per year. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3. So 27 games, if I'm counting it up correctly. 9 years this will be the 10th year. 3 games a year. The SEC has made it into at least the first round every time. And Alabama lost the first year to Ohio State in the first round. And Ohio State went on to be the national champion. And I think, we know how that went. The only other 2 times that the SEC has lost to a non-conference team is Clemson in the championship game. That's it. Twice. The only other losses is if they've beaten each other. If an SEC school beat an SEC school. And that's what Sankey pointed out. Sankey said, when we get in, we win. And we've shown historically that we're going to be, because of the conference we come out of, we're going to be one of the best teams in the country. So how do you take the historically best team of the college football? Listen to what would happen. I want y'all to respond to this. Listen to what would happen. If Alabama wins and Georgia and Alabama are left out, you would be leaving out the greatest program in the last 20 years in this new century, the greatest program potentially ever in Alabama, and they would be 11-1 SEC champs. I'm not talking about last year's team. I get last year's team being 11. I'm talking about the 11-1 champs with 5 wins over ranked opponents according to your poll. You would be leaving that team out. You would also be leaving out the team that's the most dominant team in the last 3 years in the Georgia Bulldogs. And by record, the most dominant team to ever play in the SEC in a given period. 29 wins in a row. And we talk about the 29 wins in a row. You take out the one Alabama loss, and I think they've won like almost 50 games, 49 out of the last 50 games, some crazy number. Okay? They've gone through the SEC undefeated again. Only team to go through the SEC record 3 years in a row. And you'll be leaving out the best conference in college football, bar none. And it's not even close. Because we just talked about the college football playoff dominance. Remember, the college football playoff came about because of the BCS dominance. That's why we have what we have now. And you would leave that. It's not like who's falling off. Everybody said Alabama fell off. Alabama didn't fall off. We looked ugly early, but we didn't fall off. We're still relevant. Georgia's still relevant. The conference still relevant. And they're going to leave that team out. We'll let you know what Nick Saban thinks about that potential happening when we come back on the other side. Hey, I'm Martin Houston. This is the Martin Houston Show powered by MaXSports. Hey, we want to get your scores, the score prediction right now. Make sure you get those in with the Georgia being the tiebreaker. Let me hear from you. Last chance to get in the regular season on the score prediction and win that swag pack. I'm waiting on you. 205-342-9904 or post your thoughts and your comments in the chat.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Things pretty quiet on the roadways on this Friday morning, the first day of December. Now, we did get some rain overnight, so the roadways may be a little slick. Slow down and be careful. Townsend Nissan's year-end closeout is on now with discounts up to $10,000. No reasonable offer will be refused. Townsend Nissan, and I'm Captain Ray.
Hi, Barry Buckner for Tuscaloosa Hyundai. Got a phone call from a customer says, Barry, I've been waiting 2 years for some good news about interest rates on new Hyundai Tucsons. What you got? Told him what I'll tell you. I've got great news. For the first time ever, new 2024 Tucsons with 0% 60-month financing. Yes, I said it. 5 years of free financing plus no payments until February 2024. Don't wait. You can buy today at Tuscaloosa Hyundai. New 2024 Tucsons with 0% 60-month financing. Plus, no payments until February 2024 is a great deal. So let's get straight to the point. If you want to pay more, that's your business. If you want to save, that's our business. Tuscaloosa Hyundai, corner of Skyland and Hargrove, TuscaloosaHyundai.com.
With approved credit, see dealer for complete details.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Cloudy with rain likely this morning, then just a few isolated showers this afternoon or tonight. The high today 66, the low tonight 61. Tomorrow, rain likely, maybe a few thunderstorms. The best chance of rain during the morning, the high 69. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 52 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show, powered by MaXSports. It's a beautiful day. It's the eve of the Alabama-Georgia SEC championship game. And, of course, Alabama has to win. But Nick Saban was asked by Heather Dinich, who is many times a spokesperson, spokeswoman for the college football playoffs. Earlier in the press conference, Nick Saban had been asked about his thoughts on the committee, and he kind of said, "Hey, I don't care about the committee. We tell our players don't worry about what the committee says or does." And so she acknowledges that response, and then she says, "But I know you're not worried about them, but what are your thoughts on if an SEC team gets left out?" And here's what Coach Nick Saban had to say. Very similar response and thought to what the SEC Commissioner Sankey has said as well. I want you to hear the last words of what he says, but listen to the entirety of this response by the GOAT, Coach Nick Saban, on whether or not or how he feels about the SEC champion, whoever it is, being left out.
The SEC is one of the best conferences in the country. I think Georgia is one of the best teams in the country, and I think that they're one of the best 4 teams in the country. I think if we beat them, we'd be one of the best 4 teams in the country because, teams do, there's a transformation that goes through the season. So how are you playing now? Where is your team now? How good are you now? I think all those things, come into play. But I think it would be a disrespect to the SEC if there is an SEC representation in the Final Four.
Did you catch that? Did you catch what he said? Very, very politically correct answer. I believe it would be total disrespect for the SEC champion to be left out. Now, we know if Georgia wins out, they're in for sure. But he addresses a couple things. Teams get better over the year. And everybody has said that this committee and that you can't put a team in front of a team that they beat. Would someone go back? I might have to go back and find it myself just so I can show it. Does anybody remember where Texas was ranked? Oh, they've been in the same spot all year, right? Does anybody remember where Oklahoma was ranked in the first poll? Does anybody remember where Oklahoma was ranked in the first poll? So who not only undoubtedly who you lose to matters unless you're Alabama, because we're the only ones that's getting punished for who we lost to and not getting more love for who we've beaten, because Oklahoma was behind Texas and Oregon gets credit for being ranked higher because who they lost to. I mean, they keep Alabama down because they can say Oregon's loss is better. Y'all get what I'm saying? I mean, it's messy. Let's see what we got here. We got a couple callers wanting to get in on the conversation. Philip, you're in on the Alabama One hotline. What you got for us? Is Philip still there?
Hang on. I think I said Philip. It's actually Pat. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay. Pat, you're in on the Alabama One hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Morning, man. Good morning, y'all. That tomorrow's the biggest day ever in Alabama football. That, yeah, man.
No, it's not, Pat.
Yeah, it is. We got to prove that.
Pat,
We got to
biggest
prove
day in college football was in 1993.
I guess you're right, Martin. When you won yours,
Hey, Pat, let me ask you real quick, Pat.
Yeah.
What would have happened to Alabama football if we went from Coach Bryant to Nick Saban with no championships? I'm just saying. don't forget the bridge, man. We bridged the greatest two dynasties of college football. So we get to claim the most important team. No, just kidding.
Hey, I like it though, Martin. You're right. You're right. I do wish that we had those two bookends that you had. Our defensive ends are good, but Curry and Copeland never let anything to the outside. Never. I can remember.
You talking about two guys I'd love to see play in today's game. Whew.
Yeah.
I'd love to see those guys playing in today's game.
They would have been good in any era, though, Martin. But,
absolutely.
Hey, I want to give you my score: 31-17, Alabama. And with a win like that, if they leave them out, then we know it's totally rigged.
Yep, and you still got 315 yards as your total yards for Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And but anyway, like I said, I really want to see this thing happen like this tomorrow. That I'm looking forward to a big day, and I do feel that Louisville is probably going to jump on Florida State in order to help us out. And but hey, Washington's going to whip Oregon for us too.
You know that if Florida State loses, we're in.
That's what I think.
I mean, Georgia's out, unfortunately, and Washington or Oregon is out. Ohio State's out. So that's three teams.
Yeah.
And so we would be.
Wouldn't it be nice to have the opportunity, to send them loudmouths from Texas back home early?
Yeah, it'd be great for a rematch with Texas. I mean, then we get it settled on the field.
Yep.
So I guarantee you, Texas don't want to see Alabama again. Thanks, Pat.
Y'all have a blessed day. Thank you, X. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Robert, you're in on the Alabama One hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, man. Well, I'm glad to see that the SEC and including Nick Saban are finally starting to lobby for what you and I have been talking about for weeks now?
Yeah.
Hey, this is getting set up for no SEC team to make it. We've been saying that for a month, really.
Yep.
We've been
after they had multiple times to move or make arrangements. When they came out and put the SEC, when they put Georgia below Ohio State, that was the start of it. Okay. And then they just couldn't hold that narrative any longer. And then when they just refused to move, when they put Oregon, like I said, someone told me, said, man, Oregon has done their thing. Oregon has done their thing. All right, Robert, I'm not sure if you heard these numbers. Let me give you Oregon's doing their thing. Oregon is 11-1. Okay. They have 5 wins against teams that are at 500 or above. Their other 6 wins, the teams are below 500.
Yeah.
I mean, let that sink in for a second. Everybody, this mighty Pac-12, okay? The only reason Washington doesn't have Washington has 5 wins against teams. Now, this is not at 500. This is the teams below 500.
Exactly.
Michigan and Ohio State, all their teams, everybody except for Texas and Alabama, everybody but Texas and Alabama have 5 or more teams below 500. You know why Texas doesn't have a team below 5 teams below 500? Because their out of conference game was against us. I mean, if they had one more conference game, they would be below 500, but they don't play within their. So in Alabama only has 3 below 500 when you look at it, Robert, Oregon's overall opponent record versus teams defeated. Okay. Oregon 60-72.
Yeah.
60-72. Even Florida State, even though they have Florida State listed last because Florida State's opponents have lost 76 games, Florida State's opponents have won 67 in this statistic. Alabama sits at third at 74-58. Georgia is 75-68. Washington 75-69. Alabama is the only team with the opponent total losses being below 60. You ready for one more? You ready for one more? Alabama's opponents have won 85 games. Ohio State has won 82. Texas won 81. Everybody else, Georgia's even at 10 below that. Oregon opponents have won 13 fewer games than Alabama and lost 13 more. So, I mean, and that's the team that they keep touting.
Yeah. They don't even talk body of work. I mean, they don't even say, the clown don't even say that anymore. They don't even, you remember back in the past, they used to at least claim body of work? Now they're not even claiming that this year. I mean, this is patently ridiculous and patently unfair. If Ole Miss hadn't played Alabama or Georgia, they'd be undefeated.
Right.
That's Ole Miss prime. They played the two best teams in college football. That's how good Ole Miss is.
Yeah. I heard someone told me that. Someone told me that they didn't think Ole Miss was that good. I said, what? I said, what? I said, if you put Ole Miss, you put Ole Miss out in the Pac-12 where they don't play defense.
Oh, good.
Ole Miss has the same style offense as Oregon.
Yeah, and they be talking about Dart the same way they're talking about Bo Nix right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're setting the SEC up to have the two best teams in college football, and like the thing said, when the SEC gets in that playoff, we tend to own it.
Yep.
So, but you want to keep them out. This is intentional. There's no question this is intentional. And they don't love Oregon. They just hate the SEC and particularly hate Alabama. That's what's going on right now. It is not a love for Oregon. It is a hatred of Alabama. Now, that's when I'm fine with bias because, again, we're human beings. There's no way to get around away from bias. I just don't like unfair bias is the only problem. I can be biased about certain things. Like I said, I don't like the Dallas Cowboys. But, hey, I have to admit the Dallas Cowboys are one of the best teams in the NFL. I don't like them. I'm biased against them. But I have to admit the obvious.
That's like me. I used to say the same thing about, I said, I hate Tom Brady. And I said, and when people talk about how good he is, I always find a reason to say he's lucky. He's the luckiest of all time. I mean, I say he whatever, and then I go. Now I have to admit, I'm probably a little jealous of him. I mean, the guy played football till he was in his 40s. He has 7 Super Bowl rings. He was married to a model. I mean, he was rich, and she was richer than him. I mean, I said, so I get it. So I'm being honest up front. I understand, but I can still find something to be. If they would just come out and say, "Listen, we want to." Well, one guy did, and I'm gonna hope. I want you to finish your statement, Robert, if you can do that. Last year, the commissioner said. Last year's commissioner said we can't let college football become a regional sport. Now I'm gonna let that. I want you to think about what that means on the other side, Robert. The commissioner last year or a year before, maybe both years, said we cannot let college football become a regional sport. That was a stated comment by the leaders of the College Football Playoff Committee, and this is exactly what they're doing right now. We'll talk about it on the other side.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Things pretty quiet on the roadways on this Friday morning, the first day of December. Now, we did get some rain overnight, so roadways may be a little slick. Slow down and be careful. Townsend Nissan's year-end closeout is on now with discounts up to $10,000. No reasonable offer will be refused. Townsend Nissan, and I'm Captain Ray.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go, shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
At Lowe's, you can save big on DeWalt tools, tough enough to take on even the most demanding jobs. Right now, buy one DeWalt 20-volt Max brushless drill kit or impact driver kit for just $99. And there's more. Save over $20 on the DeWalt Tough Grip 110-piece screwdriver set. Was $49.98, now only $25.98. Because Lowe's knows tools, Lowe's knows pros. Valid through 11/29 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Are you ready for the ultimate touchdown in automotive excellence? Well, strap on your helmets and get ready to score big at Julio Jones Kia in Tuscaloosa. That's right. Just like a championship-winning team, Julio Jones Kia is here to help you drive your way to victory with unbeatable deals and unbeatable service. Visit us today at Julio Jones Kia in Tuscaloosa and let us help you drive your way to victory. Visit Julio Jones Kia or shop us 24/7 at buyfromjulio.com.
Hi, Barry Buckner for Tuscaloosa Hyundai. Based on the past 2 years, you've heard nothing but bad news with interest rates. But when you can buy a new Hyundai Santa Fe with 0% financing for 5 years, that's great news. And it's here right now. For the first time ever, new Santa Fe is now at Tuscaloosa Hyundai with 0% 60-month financing. 0 for 60 months. Yes, I said it. 5 years of free financing. Plus, you make no payments until February of 2024. If you've been thinking about buying, don't wait. New Tuscaloosa Hyundai Santa Fe's with 0 60-month financing plus no payments until February 2024 is great news. So let's get straight to the point. If you want to pay more, that's your business. If you want to save, that's our business. Tuscaloosa Hyundai, corner of Skyland and Hargrove, TuscaloosaHyundai.com.
With approved credit, see dealer for complete details.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
You know, sometimes when you win and don't play like you'd like to have played, players aren't as interested in why do we have to make these corrections, why is this so important. You have to have a certain maturity about you as a competitor to understand that there's lessons to be learned when you win as well as when you lose. When you lose, you know, everybody's really like humiliated and really wants to go focus better because they don't feel good about themselves. So having the maturity to be able to manage and learn and build on the good things that you did, as well as still be able to learn the lessons that go with some of the mistakes that you made, I think that's the key to the drill. And I think our players have handled that, you know, pretty well this week.
That was Coach Nick Saban talking about how the Alabama football team, you know, not necessarily playing well against the Auburn Tigers could have hurt them, but he said the players have responded well this week, which means they took to the coaching despite not winning. Now, you know, as we were going to break there, we got some Robert on the phone. Robert, I'll let you respond. Is Robert still there?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I can remember listening to people call Ryan's show, and I think maybe your show too, early in the season when I was complaining about, we were complaining about Alabama. You guys need to get some, you start beating these teams up that you want to beat, and you won't need to struggle. Our style points don't matter. When it was quite obvious that style points this season were mattering, And it would have been nice to have gotten the style points early in the season, but that's the whole point. We weren't gelling. I mean, you've been on the team, you know. Sometimes it takes even the best team a little time to get that gel right. Going back to the Cowboys, you know, early in the season, I would have said the 49ers were the better team than the Cowboys. Cowboys had lost to Arizona? That loss early in the season? Well, here we are now near the end of the season.
You know what?
I don't think so.
And you know what they had? They had a new coordinator. They had new offensive elements. They had made some major changes. And it took them some time to gel. And that's what people don't get about what's so impressive to me about Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. No program has to replace the number of starters, not guys who go from 1 year starting in college to the next year starting in the NFL. Let's think about this for a second. Bring back Bryce Young to this team versus having a quarterback battle. Oregon, Oregon, Michigan, all right, Oregon, Michigan, and Washington, and Florida State. What do they all have in common?
Yeah, quarterbacks at the next second year at least for their quarterbacks.
Watch this. Not just second year. How long has Bo Nix been in college?
Forever.
He has. I think he's on the track to start more games than anybody to ever play because he started as a true freshman and he got a COVID year. So he's a fifth year guy, but he started. Penix is either his fifth year or sixth year. Fifth year, I think. Travis at Florida State was a what? Fifth year guy or sixth year guy? I can't remember. Sometimes it get mixed. I know he at least a fifth year guy. And what's his name is in his fourth year at Michigan, I think. So and third year starter. So that's the top 4 teams. And then you say, well, what about Georgia? Well, does Georgia win against Texas? Maybe, maybe not. But what did Texas have? A returning starter. The only team that was up there that did not have a start was Ohio State.
Well, and incidentally, Georgia is one of the teams facing elimination on Saturday. And Georgia is also one of the teams facing elimination.
Georgia, the two teams facing elimination is Georgia and Ohio State.
Well, Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State.
No. What I'm saying is, I'm saying of the teams that I listed, like we're like all of the teams right now, and so that's why I say you cannot, you should never judge the season by what happens first few weeks. How many of Nick Saban's national championships did he lose in the first 3 weeks of the season? Didn't we lose to Ole Miss in the first, second, third game of the season?
Yep, early in the season.
So if let's say that happened, Robert, if Ohio State, if Ole Miss had been good and had beat everybody else, would you have said that Ole Miss was the better team all year? Here's the thing. If Texas loses, are they still better than Alabama? Because that's what everybody's saying. They beat us. So if they lose, they're still better than us. Because they beat us. And so if you can't make that statement out, if they lose Saturday, how do you make that statement today? Losing to someone else doesn't make us better than them.
And Ryan has been talking about this committee, and the reason why he doesn't like it because he thinks they're not coaches and they're not they don't know enough about football. And that's not their problem, in my opinion. My opinion is simply like we said earlier, you're unfair bias. I don't know nearly as much football as you do, and I probably don't know as much as Coach Saban, although you probably do. I don't. But we can still pick the best 14. I can still pick the best 14 in college and the NFL to a lot of folks' satisfaction because what I've seen. And the fact that I'm not, my bias is unfair. Right. I'll put the Cowboys in one of the net 4 best teams because even though I don't like them, my bias isn't unfair. If these folks' biases weren't unfair, they'd be fine.
If Alabama was undefeated right now, Georgia would still be number 1. There is no way that I watched Georgia the last 2 years, and they just win. They can't help who they play. They just win, okay? And they have where people say, well, that's what Oregon's saying. I hadn't seen Oregon beat any champions. I hadn't seen Oregon win a championship game. I hadn't seen Oregon come from a conference. I hadn't seen Oregon come from a conference that has won a championship, that's even been in the playoffs. Georgia has dominated the most dominant conference. So they would be number 1 even if Alabama was undefeated. Even though I'm a guy. And here's the difference. You and I are fans. We don't have any skin in the game. The problem with this committee, Robert, is this. They're sitting athletic directors on the conference. Do you understand that the Pac-12 commissioner is one of the people, she's one of the people on the committee?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Michigan, 2 of the 4 teams in the top, 3 of the top 5 teams, athletic directors are sitting on the committee that's voting on the best teams in the country.
You know who I would have on the committee? Vegas odds makers. Those guys, they're both brutally honest because they always have skin in the game. They always have money on the line. They're brutally honest. But there's nothing but Vegas odds makers on those committees.
Here's my point, and I'll let you get your score and let you get. Robert, you telling me you can't find enough former, like I said, we all have biases, but you can find enough former players, coaches, and athletic directors. If that's what you want to have on the committee, you should not have sitting. My point is, if Sankey was on this committee, are we having this conversation? Everybody in the world would be up in arms if Sankey was on this committee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they'd be like, oh, well, he's going to pick the SEC. Well, but if we say it from the SEC standpoint, we're whining. So anyway, what's your score, man?
Yeah, and that's one of the advantages the committee has. The country won't care if the SEC is left out because they're sick of the SEC. So they got that in their hip pocket. If they can do that, nobody's going to care because the rest of the country hates too. I'm going to go 31-24 Alabama. I think we make a statement. I sure hate that Alabama has to beat Georgia by 14 plus in order to hopefully get a nod, but Oregon can win by just 1, and they're good.
And you said 31 what?
31-24.
31-24. What's the total yards for Georgia?
I'm going to go 330.
All right. Appreciate you, Robert. Hopefully we'll be talking about a big Alabama win and hopefully them being in the college football playoffs on Monday. Man, enjoy the game. I'll talk to you on Monday. Coming back on the other side, hey, we're going to bring X into the conversation. He's out on assignment, but he's able to join us, and he'll join us for this last segment. We got several other people trying to get in. We'll get you in, your comments in on the conversation on the other side.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Things pretty quiet on the roadways on this Friday morning, the first day of December. Now, we did get some rain overnight, so the roadways may be a little slick. Slow down and be careful. Townsend Nissan's year-end closeout is on now with discounts up to $10,000. No reasonable offer will be refused. Townsend Nissan, and I'm Captain Ray.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Friday morning. 28 counties in Alabama have been designated by the Small Business Administration as eligible for economic injury, low-interest disaster loans due to the drought. In West Alabama, small business, small agriculture, small aquaculture, and private nonprofits are eligible in Lamar, Tuscaloosa, Walker counties. The low amount can be up to $2 million with interest rates of 4% for small businesses. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more news throughout the day. It's free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Hi, Barry Buckner for Tuscaloosa Hyundai. Got a phone call from a customer says, Barry, I've been waiting 2 years for some good news about interest rates on new Hyundai Tucsons. What you got? Told him what I'll tell you. I've got great news. For the first time ever, new 2024 Tucsons with 0% 60-month financing. Yes, I said it. 5 years of free financing plus no payments until February 2024. Don't wait. You can buy today at Tuscaloosa Hyundai. New 2024 Tucsons with 0% 60-month financing. Plus, no payments until February 2024 is a great deal. So let's get straight to the point. If you want to pay more, that's your business. If you want to save, that's our business. Tuscaloosa Hyundai, corner of Skyland and Hargrove, TuscaloosaHyundai.com.
With approved credit, see dealer for complete details.
People who come to Cricket stay with Cricket, just like our customer Jaron.
I'm the singer and guitarist in a band, and I use my Cricket phone for everything. It's basically like another band member.
Don't miss a single beat. Switch today and get a free Samsung Galaxy A14 5G. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Real customer paid for testimonial. Must bring your number to Cricket on up to a $60 a month voice plan depending on device. Select models only while supplies last. First month service charge and tax due at sale. Cricket 5G requires a compatible device and is not available everywhere. Fees, terms, and restrictions apply. See store for details.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Well, we started doing that in the Kentucky game, especially, when they play bigger people. That's he's handled it very, very well. Gives a little bigger body at star, a guy that can play the runs and stuff a little better. So that was the thinking behind it, and that's why we did it. But it's not been an issue at all for him and his learning curve.
That was Coach Nick Saban talking about the power of moving Caleb Downs to star, bigger body at star. X, welcome into the program. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing well. Hey, before I forget, I need to quickly remind, hey guys, go out and check out Southmark Design, the official outfitter of the Martin Houston Show. For those of you who are online, like that cap right there, the Martin Houston logo there. One guy told me I think it was Philip told me I need to change the logo because it reminds him of an Auburn helmet. I might still do that. Hadn't done it yet. But anyways, Southmark Design, Scott Smith, the official outfitter of the Martin Houston Show. He'll be providing that swag pack. Going to be working with him to get a couple new items. But anyway, Caleb Downs moving to star. Absolutely key to winning Saturday. Bigger body to support the run game and to do what? Does Alabama have a kryptonite for Brock Bowers?
It would have to be Caleb Downs. He's the guy that you want to see who has the physicalness and the size to match up with Bowers that we see regularly in the secondary.
Yeah, 'cause think about that. Normally we've seen Malachi Moore or somebody like that on him or a linebacker on him. Now we have, and I just wonder, did they do that in anticipation of this game, in this matchup? That's the matchup of the game for me. Caleb Downs versus Brock Bowers. If that plays out, if this happens, everybody keep talking about this dude being freshman All-American. If he's able, you don't shut down Brock Bowers. You don't stop him. I mean, if he can control him and keep him from killing us in key situations, third downs, and play the run support, man, I'm feeling good about Bama's chances, X. Real quick, and then we got J-Rob we need to get to. Then we'll get some score predictions and player of the game candidates. J-Rob, you're in with Martin and Xavier. What's on your mind, sir?
Happy Friday and roll tide, Martin and X. How y'all doing today?
Doing good, J-Rob.
Doing good.
Hey, man, I had to call when Robert started talking about my Cowboys. They did look good last night, but we got to do that against a good team. We haven't beat a good team like San Francisco, or we got Philly the next week. So hopefully we can step up and show up for that game next
Hey,
week.
J-Rob, last night I watched the second half of the replay of the Philly game. And their coach, listen to what their coach said. He said, people are asking, how are y'all doing this? He said, I got a bunch of guys that know how to win. And then they said, he went on to say this. These dudes played, the older guys were on the Super Bowl team. The young guys played at Alabama and Georgia. Do you think Alabama and Georgia's draft stock just went through the roof?
Well, that's what I mean. This coach literally, most of those players are from Alabama and Georgia.
He literally said, we just don't panic because we know how to win, and we know how to win because we have guys who played on the Super Bowl, and then we have guys who played at Georgia and Alabama, and they know how to win. Anyway, J-Rob, I just and Jason Rutledge also called
Cam Sims.
Huh?
And they just signed Cam Sims, who played in Alabama. So there you go.
That's right. Hey, J-Rob, what's your score, man?
Like Al Davis said, just win, baby. They just win.
That's right.
Alabama plays well as an underdog. I hope we do this Saturday in the Mercedes Dome. I hope Alabama. I hope we win 31-21.
31-21. All right. What's the total yards for Georgia?
302.
Thank you. Thanks, J-Rob. Appreciate that, man. Jason Rutledge agreed with you.
Weekend, roll tide.
By the way, Jason Rutledge agreed with you. He said, hey, they ain't beat nobody yet, talking about the Cowboys. But them Eagles are coming in. My boy Jalen Hurts taking care of business. X, when you look at this, earlier, Bam Bam 72 made an analysis to the 92 team and how we were an underdog, and we were able to come in and take care of business against Miami, stop their three-peat, stop their win streak. They were at 28 games, and I think at 28 games, and we stopped their streak. Georgia's at 29, but Alabama could stop that streak. Alabama's only been an underdog a few times, okay? A few times. And most of those have been against Georgia in recent years, and they've won them.
All four. I think all four since 2010 have been against Georgia.
And how many of those have they won? All of them, right?
All the national championship game, I think.
Were we the underdogs in the national championship game after beating them?
Actually, you know what? I don't know.
I'm not sure we were. I don't know. But either way, big time game coming up. We said Brock Bowers, Caleb Downs, what you got from a score prediction standpoint? We'll go ahead and get that out of the way so we make sure we get it in.
I said 27-24, Bama.
27-24. What's Georgia's total yards?
I'm gonna go with 313.
All right. Well, I have Alabama getting 34. Got Georgia getting 27 with 327. So I think that Alabama, Xavier, keys to victory for you from a standpoint. What do you got?
Well, with Jason McClellan most likely being out, I think you're going to see an involvement of now. Of course, Roydell Williams touches will go up, but Jam Miller and Kendrick Law, I feel like are going to have to be a big contributing factor on the offensive side. And defensively, we've mentioned it. Caleb Downs on Brock Bowers, if he's playing, which I believe he will. Ladd McConkey, another guy that they like to use in the slot and move around. Who you're going to put on him? That's going to be a big one. And then, of course, the edge rushers versus this potent Georgia offensive line who's only given up 8 sacks all season.
I think all things being even, it's going to be the quarterback play. And I think Milroe has to be Milroe-ish. He have to be a beast, unleash the beast early and often, utilize the running backs as part of the run game, but do not hold him back. Let him go from the start. Either come out chunking it deep to back him off, and or come out with him dropping back to pass, pulling it down and running. Make them commit someone to the spy game so that helps us in the pass game early. Alabama 34-27, Georgia 327 total yards. That's my score. Xavier 27-24, 313 Georgia yards. Got several other guys getting in. Jason Rutledge getting his in under the wire, 30-24, 290. Hey, thanks to all of you guys, all the callers, listeners, viewers, and chatters that join us each and every day. We appreciate you. As we get ready to get out of here, Nick Saban saying if an SEC champ is left out, it's disrespect to the SEC. We'll know on Monday when we come back who does what, who's in, who's out. Will it be an SEC champion in, and will that champion be the Alabama Crimson Tide? We'll talk about it on Monday with Xavier and Kennington Smith III. Remember this, trust in the Lord always. Lean not your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Stop by and see us at Harvest Church, where we're loving God, loving people, and we'd love to have you as a part of our service. I got some great things going on. Our youth are doing some great things there. We're going to spaghetti dinner and Christmas wrapping. So come see us 10 o'clock at Harvest Church. Loving God, loving people. For Noah Haynes, for Xavier Houston, for all the caller, listeners, viewers, and chatters, I'm Martin Houston, and I'm saying roll tide. Go get another SEC championship. We'll talk about it on Monday.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.